Hi, I'm David Bates, and welcome to the first ever episode of The Dark Arts. What is the Dark Arts exactly? Well, it's a spotlight show for members of the Church of Satan. We're going to have many guests on the show, and we're going to highlight all their skills and talents, such as tattooing, painting, sculpting, burlesque, sideshow, you name it, it's going to be on here. So right now we're going to take a look at our very first guest, Mr. Dorian Grey. Here are The Dark Arts with Dorian Grey.
Hey everybody, this is David Bates. I am here with Dorian Grey. Or is it Warlock Dorian Grey?
It is, but I mean, you don't have to call me Warlock every time you... But yeah, I have a title. It's all cool.
Warlock Dorian Grey.
But I don't really tell people, hey, refer to me as Warlock.
Gotta get that proper introduction going.
But it's nice. I do like it. I pop my collar a little bit when I hear it, you know. What's up, man?
So you do painting, tattooing, illustrating. You're also a musician, and you do a podcast. You've also been published in Old Nick. You've had a comic book done. What else have you done, sir?
I got a book out. I'm an author. I do everything. I do anything artistic. I will throw my hat in the ring. I've done some composing. Even if it's artistic, I'll try it. Sometimes I maybe lose focus because I'm trying too many things, and then I got to back up and go, I did that thing behind your shoulder there on the wall. I believe that's Alice Cooper I see.
It is.
But, done some music. You and I have shared the stage a few times, my friend. So, yeah, anything artistic I want to try usually. So, yeah.
So we just saw a video in the opening of, it was a bunch of clips of you painting, tattooing, and the music that was playing over it was your band Thorn Fetish. Before we get into that, so what was your first art? Like, what is the very first thing artistically you got into?
I mean, probably, well, I don't know, this is going to be weird, because I want to say drawing, when I was a kid, especially, being a fan of superheroes and sci-fi and fantasy. I was probably a little kid drawing, Star Wars and Conan the Barbarian and all that stuff. But then again, I was already singing at that age, but it was more like Mom had me doing a solo in church or something like that, so. But, I guess probably, like, as far as, like, artistically, what was I in control of my own art? It would have been probably drawing, and creating my own monsters. It's kind of funny. I remember very, very clearly watching Star Wars on TV. The first time it was ever shown on TV as a little kid, and my mom, the scene in the cantina. My mom saying, somebody must have to be demon possessed to come up with these kind of monsters, and I'd be in my room drawing the different monsters and stuff too. Like, okay, well, so she's probably right.
The demon's name was George Lucas.
Uh-huh. Exactly. But yeah, so I mean that was the kind of I think probably what fueled my imagination was, the things I got from movies and comic books and stories and stuff, So I mean really, yeah, like my first inspiration of any kind of art would be driven by people like George Lucas and J.R.R. Tolkien and, that sort of thing. Stan Lee, and those are I should make my own monument to those kind of guys, but yeah.
So would you say those are like your first influences of art?
Yeah, I think early on, as far as creativity, like to me, the most artistic thing you can do is create an entire world. So George Lucas, of course, was a master of that. Tolkien was a master of that kind of stuff. As far as art itself and what really first is going to be comic books. Yeah, definitely. Marvel, DC, all of that when I was a kid. I know the Avengers is a big craze now, but in the '70s when I was a little kid, it was a big thing to me then. And so yeah, I mean, comic books were definitely a big drive. And again, I think seeing things in movies made me want to draw. What was the movie Dragon Slayer? Dragon Slayer. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
I think that was probably around 1980, probably that it came out. And like just the way that they made the dragons look made me want to draw those kind of dragons. Like just the medieval style. So yeah, that was probably an inspiration. And then of course the artwork from Dungeons and Dragons, all the different that kind of fantasy art was a huge inspiration for me. I loved fantasy art, so seeing that kind of stuff, and even like the movie posters from like Boris Vallejo, who'd paint, or Frank Frazetta, who painted stuff like Conan the Barbarian, and like the '80s had all those cheesy movies. Like I just watched one the other day called Barbarian Queen, which is, it was just like a lot of boobs and some really bad choreography, fights and swords and stuff and loincloths and, all the good stuff, so. But the movie posters were done by amazing artists for these B movies that were just fantastic artwork. And I think that was real inspiring to me too also. So, yeah.
Now, does painting have any influence on your tattooing style?
Drawing does. I paint, but not as often as maybe I get credit for. Like, I do paintings when people want them, and maybe I'll get on a streak of painting, but I always draw, and I've always drawn. That was my, when I was in high school, my senior year of high school, I had 2 hours of incentive art, which means I could just do whatever I wanted. And mostly what I liked to do was portrait realism. The 80s, of course, there was either like, a model, some hot chick, or, a rock band. So I was really good at hair because I draw lots of hair on these, so my favorite style of tattooing, although I can do pretty much any style of tattooing, but my favorites are going to be usually black and gray, and especially photorealism, and it's because I'm a pencil artist, so the black and gray kind of goes hand in hand with that. So yeah, I'd say there's an influence to it, sure.
Is there any particular tattoo artist that influenced you, or that you look at now and are really like really work for you, like, or just really you just see their art and go, damn, yeah. All right.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, especially today, the amount of amazing tattoo artists are just it's you can't even keep up with it. I kind of find different artists on Instagram, and it's just there's so many of them coming out. It's such a huge industry, and it's really flooded now with a lot of great artists.
I was going to say, do you feel it's oversaturated a bit?
It is sometimes, yeah. I mean, but when I started, there was a handful of artists that really stood out to me. I'm sure you're familiar with Paul Booth. Paul Booth's, known for his dark, you could say satanic even imagery. in
Yeah, I
his
heard of him
tattooing.
when Kerry King from Slayer got his head. That was like the first time I heard
Exactly.
about him. And he did. I think he
Yeah.
did his sleeves too. Like that's when I first heard. I was like, okay, this is pretty
Yeah, a
cool.
lot of the metal musicians definitely got work from Paul Booth. He's been around for a long time, and when I first started, I've been tattooing for 22 years now. When I got started, he was one of the first people. Him and an artist named Dino Cook, who was like one of the first people doing photo realism in color. Um, uh, there's a handful of artists that were like really big influences on me when I first started, and some of the guys that are even around on the tattoo shows now, like Ink Master, a guy named Clean Rock One shows up on there a lot. He was around when I was tattooing. A lot of people think that these guys are like up and coming when they come on that show, and they've been around a long time. So that show's totally fake, but you probably shouldn't quote me on that.
that actually I didn't have this question set for you, but that sort of makes me ask the question: have you ever thought about going on one of those shows? Have you ever thought about it?
I had an opportunity for a, and I guess I can't say the name, but you'll have to bleep that. Wow, what I said previously. But I had an opportunity for the second season of Ink Master. Bleep that out. And so the show was still new, and I basically did a whole bunch of phone interviews with them, and they called the shop like that I worked at in Indiana, where I tattooed you actually. They had called there and talked to me and did my interviews on the phone. When it came down to it, they had filming. They block out an entire month of filming. They said you got to be in New York for this entire month. Well, it happened to be the month that Lexi and I already had our wedding planned, and all of our family had plane tickets to go down to Florida, where we were getting married on the beach. And I was like, "Can you let me sneak out for my wedding?" And they said no. And I said, I'm going to pass then. And, like I said, bleep out the name of the show as I tell you this, but after spending a few years in LA and come to realize how, while in LA, I tattooed a lot of different TV producers or people who worked on sets, even like just guys who were like, whatever, a lighting guy or a grip or whatever, and come to find out, like, even the shows that you would think, well, this one's got to at least be real, it's not. And my faith in the whole thing, like, that in just watching those shows now, like, where they just kind of stir up arguments, and like, that's not how I am. Like, I like my shop quiet, and I stick to myself, and the whole artists fighting each other and getting each other's faces, it's so fake. And I was just like, I don't really have any use for that. So I'm kind of glad that.
Well, no drama,
that
it's
didn't
a
really
boring show then. It's just.
Exactly, yeah. Or it's a happy show. And that's how I like my life. I like, there's a sci-fi show called Face Off where they just make like the horror makeup. Magically, they never fight. And it's still a great show, and it's been on for years. It's like, this is how, that's the show I like watching, and there's no drama. But, hey, I guess if you want to appeal to the simpletons, you got to add some drama in. So I'm kind of glad that I'm not a part of it, but no big deal. I'm doing all right without it.
You said you tattooed some famous people out in L.A. Any names you care to mention? Anybody noteworthy?
I mean, I posted pictures. I've more talked with a few, and I'm sure you've seen a few of the pictures of. I've tattooed Stephen Piercy a few times, and I think Michael Jai White, he came into the shop. He got his wedding ring tattooed. Trying to think. I have to look through all my pictures. I wasn't prepared for this one, but. But yeah, it's on my Facebook. I think there's pictures of me with people that came in, different people who came into the shop and got little tattoos and stuff. But it was that was one of the cool things about being in LA. I was only there for a few years, but the shop I was at was on Ventura Boulevard, and just every day you'd see. We were at a crosswalk too, so it was perfect. Like one day I'm tattooing and I hear all these cars honking, and it's because the crosswalk, it lit up, all the cars had stopped as Rod Stewart was walking across the street with the chick under his arm, and he's waving at people. And that was like a thing you'd see all the time. So that It was pretty cool to see. That was pretty fun.
Pretty neat.
Yeah. Got to see a lot of the 80s rock band guys hanging out. They're still there. They haven't given up on their hair yet. So I did, but they didn't.
So, switching from art, you also do the Devil You Know podcast, which is how long you guys been doing that now?
Well, I was almost 3 years because it was the end of my time in LA. We started when I was still out there. So I guess it's going on. Wow, is it going on 3 years? It must be. We've almost been out here 3 years, so yeah, pretty close to 3 years. It's slowed down some now. We were pretty good about doing it every week, but now we've gone to a video format, and it takes more editing. And we burned through a lot of cool guests, so now we got Adam working on I guess maybe reviewing who we're having on the show and making sure we get the right people on, and so it's kind of more like every few weeks, let's just say. It's not every weekend anymore, but yeah, some good interviews though.
Oh no, I really enjoyed the podcast. Like, just the Christopher Walken stuff had me fucking dying, and
yeah.
The owl, where's the owl?
That got a lot of people into it at the beginning, so. Yeah.
Also, the other podcast you did was about the Satanic Panic in the 1980s. Can you tell us about that?
It wasn't really. Yeah, it's on Radio Free Satan. It wasn't actually about the Satanic Panic. It was just the 80s music and 80s metal and hard rock. Basically, what it was is I'm a diehard fan of it. I grew up in that kind of stuff, and I still am. And in high school, I fed myself so much useless information about these rock bands that I finally found a use for it. So what I did was I made a 10-episode series podcast where I took each year, 1980, 1981, 1982, and each episode would be dedicated to 1 year where I would play 15 different songs from that year, whether they were bands that I liked or some of them were bands that I discovered while I was doing the research on it. And, I did some commentary, and then I would break it into, like, in between songs, I would maybe play, like, some toy commercials from that year or, talk about what TV shows were popular that year. So it's just kind of a look back on the 80s in general and the heavy metal and the hard rock bands from that whole decade. So it's called Decade of Decadence, and it's on Radio Free Satan. You can check it out anytime on there. It's fun, and I don't know, I've thought about possibly doing some more. I guess we'll see. I'm kind of checking out feedback from people on it, but
you're gonna say, were you gonna go into the 90s and go from there?
It's possible.
Or go backwards?
I've been kind of wanting to hear some feedback. I could go backwards. The only thing is, like, there's a lot of bands and stuff that I like that are from like 70s rock stuff, but I don't really know it like I knew the 80s, like I was living it, then, so it's kind of, I don't know. 70s isn't my era. I was around for most of it, but I was a little kid, so, yeah.
Well, since we're talking about music, let's take a minute right now. We're going to watch a music video that you're very familiar with. It's by a band called Thorn Fetish, and it's No Rest for the Wicked, so check it out.
Right on.
Way too fucking early for that shit. Started already, goddamn. There ain't no rest for the wicked. Well, we ain't rested yet, so we're right on key here.
was awesome.
Oh my god, did you see that shit? Holy shit, what the fuck?
Yeah, you got to get all different camera angles for that. Oh, hey, yeah. Yeah, that was me. That was me. Back in the day.
I'm losing your video feed.
Not that long ago. What's that?
I'm losing your video feed a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that was me back in, I don't know, back in the day. That was my band. That was us and all of our friends. That's what, I think that's what I like about that video. That video just reminds me of all the fun times, you know, with the band and with hanging out with everyone. Because that's really what it's about, you know, like, it's about those fun times, drinking and doing stupid shit with all your friends and, yeah. Good times.
So if you can, give us a rundown on the who and what of Thorn Fetish. Like, how did it start? Was this your first
Thorn
big?
Fetish.
Was this your first real band?
No. I played in bands since high school. But Thorn Fetish was one that was, I don't know. I guess I'd taken maybe years of experience and really focused in what I wanted it to be. Although it kind of changed gears between the first album and the second album. But yeah. So Thorn Fetish was a band that I started basically after I'd been through like divorce and I had like time on my own and kind of stepping away from the. I needed a side of me that stepped away from being the family guy kind of thing, you know, and just something for me. And so, you know, I started a band that drank a lot and hung out with strippers, and you know, couldn't get much better than that, right? So
we were actually at your old stomping grounds a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you saw. I tagged you in that.
I thought I saw something. Yeah.
Yeah, after Sinister Fate played South Bend for the first time in, I don't know, like years, Doc came out, so he's like, what are we doing after? I'm like, I don't know, dude. We got no plans. He pulls out a stack of those fucking free passes, the same ones. He goes, we're going to the strip club. I go,
oh my god, he still has those?
Guys, we're going to the strip club.
Yeah, we were sponsored by that strip club, man. That's
I
not
can't
a lot
believe
of
they actually still worked. I'm like, dude.
So they did?
I'm like, how old are these things? He's like, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. I'm like, dude, they are not gonna let us in. This is not gonna happen. We get there, give them the card. They're just like, all right, write down your name and your email and their little.
Does he still hang out there? Did they recognize him when he walked in?
They recognized
that's how
Doc.
it used to be.
Because Doc had his hair all, you know, usually spiked up in the usual.
So let me tell you a fun story. You know, when we first, like, you know, when we kind of formed the band, like, you know, I met Drew, our departed brother, who's no longer with us. I met him and, you know, our first guitar player, and we had started a band and we were looking for a drummer. We tried a few different people. Somehow, somebody, I think our first guitar player, he knew Doc, barely, but he kind of knew him. And what he knew was that Doc had a PA system. We didn't have one, so we were like, all right, let's try him out. He's all right. And he's like the quietest dude, you know. We didn't really know him that well because he was totally like, he didn't cuss, he didn't drink, you know, and the rest of us are like smoking and drinking and cussing and strip club, you know, and so first time we get him to go to a strip club, and there was a girl there that I knew, and I gave her $20. I'm like, go take him over there and give him a quick lap dance, you know. She goes, that was the hardest thing I ever had to do because I had to keep turning his face to look at me because he wouldn't like look at her. Now, fast forward a couple years later, and we go in there, and everyone in the whole place goes, Doc! Like, it's Cheers. He's Norm from Cheers at the strip club after a couple years. Like, what the heck happened? Like, all of a sudden, and apparently he's still like that, right? So yeah, we corrupted that boy.
Oh my God, yes.
And he drinks and cusses and.
And actually, there was a stripper fight there that night too.
Nice.
It was like all of a sudden we're like facing this way, and we hear behind us glass shatter. We're like, what the fuck? Turn around, there's glass getting thrown everywhere. Two strippers are just going at it, like shoes off, like throwing it shoes
the whole
at
place,
each other.
the whole place erupts and cheers.
The one bouncer just darts, grabs this chick, carries her to the back. We're just
Nice.
And of course we closed out the bar, so there was that. So yeah, that was the end of the night. So it was.
We had a few shows that ended that way, actually. So, but yeah, the band went through different changes over the lineup, and we tried to do kind of it was just metal with a hook, and we were into a lot of the bands that had the kind of a little bit of that, I guess, horror edge. Not as much as you guys did, but that's kind of what Drew's vision was, and I was like, I don't want to be trapped in it. So I wanted to be able to wear some crazy clothes or go up there in shorts and t-shirt and be comfortable enough to do either of those. And I think we kind of pulled that off. We had a little bit of something for everybody. Had some good hooks to the music. The second album, we had a different lineup because Cage, the guitar player, he and I, we wanted to get more progressive, or maybe not so much necessarily progressive, but just we were musicians and wanted to really, I guess, maybe push our musical skill a little bit further. And Drew wasn't.
Expand the sound a bit.
Yeah. Drew wasn't really quite in that area, and I think Doc by that time he was just kind of like, He, I don't know. Maybe we corrupted him too much. I don't know. We burned him out or something. But so yeah. Anyway, and then then I moved, and so everyone was fucked.
Way to go, Dorian. Way to go.
Sorry. I did it for my kid, so I left. I went to California, and I haven't played since. I touched the guitar once or twice. I did buy a bass recently, actually, though, so I can sit here and tool around with Rush songs. But it's just too many things, and I'm trying to streamline what I'm focused on. So one of these days I'll sit here and go, you know what? I'm going to record an album, and I'll just sit here and do it because that's the way I am, But I don't know.
So, any chances of you re-releasing all the Thorn Fetish catalog in that?
I mean, I honestly, I don't even know where I could find master recordings, but I don't know, maybe Tom's got them or Ryan, or I don't know. I still have a few copies around here somewhere. I can burn them for people if they want them. If anyone does CDs anymore.
Obviously, I have both CDs, and actually, I'm one of the few that actually has the DVD. The infamous Thorn Fetish DVD.
I have copies of that here too. Yeah, I've got copies here. Yeah. I'm not positive, but the first album, you might be able to get the digital version of that on Amazon. Now my solo orchestral project, classical music, is on there. Some jazza that you can get on Amazon MP3. So, but yeah, that's there.
So I'm gonna ask the question that I'm sure you've seen Slider ask it 80 different fucking times, and the Thorn Fetish reunion.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from. I mean, one of the members is dead. So, I don't know. I don't know. It's not really something the hardest part, of course, is, I'm several states away.
Yeah.
Getting the other guys lined up. Obviously, practice is not something I can easily do. And then, I can think of, a handful of diehards that would show up, but I mean, it's been a while. I don't know how many people are really going to get lined up for it, but I never say never. Let's put it that way. I never say never. So we will see.
So you did Thorn Fetish. You did the Dave Wallace Band.
Mm-hmm.
Which what was that? Now how was that different? What was that geared
Oh, it's a lot
towards?
different. I like a lot of different stuff as long as it fits into rock. Not that I like everything, but I like a lot of stuff that fits into. Um, well, let's put it this way: if it's not rap and country, then there's samples of it I like. Um, there are musicians some of my favorite musicians are great songwriters. Butch Walker is my favorite songwriter, and he's not, although he was in a glam band in the 80s actually called, what was the name of his band? I can't think of it now. Anyway, and then he was in a band in the 90s called Marvelous 3, when they had a few hits on the radio and stuff, but he is just a great songwriter, and that kind of stuff, people like that. Would strike me at a time where I'm like, I'm not one-dimensional when it comes to music. Obviously, I can do a classical album too. So the DWB was just be doing something different, just for me, and I didn't really push it a lot. I only played a handful of shows, and it has a lot more like acoustic, and it has some kind of bluesy kind of stuff to it also, and it's just different. It's not heavy. It's just got some classic rock riffs. I guess a lot of those 70s classic rock riffs actually kind of show up in there. So yeah, I'm not afraid to try something different. If I like it, that's really the only thing that matters to me when it comes down to it. No matter what project I do, if I'm happy with it, I don't care if anyone else likes it. I'll try it anyway. So yeah, that's what being a Satanist is, right?
It is. So you already sort of touched that a little bit. So there's really no future music plans. You like nothing really.
I don't have anything. Well, okay, let's put it this way. It changes week to week. Like I said, a couple months ago, I bought a bass guitar. I don't have any instruments because I sold everything before I moved to California, except I have an acoustic guitar. So I don't really have anything. Well, I went out and bought this bass guitar, and at the time I was like, maybe I'll play some. Maybe I get together with some guys and play some slow sludge rock metal, like kind of just something. I was stuff I was listening to at the time was like, it's just kind of be cool to play this like stoner, slow, typo negative, but heavier, kind of growly, shit. I don't know that I'll do that now. That was then, and that's how I am. I fly by the seat of my pants kind of guy. If I get an idea, then I got to work on it now because otherwise I'll lose it, and so I've lost it. That may come around. I just can't say for sure because it does come down to a lot of different things. Finding free time for me sucks. I don't have much. So if I was going to do something musically, it's got to be, like if I was going to record something, it's probably going to be just me because it's just going to be like when I have time to work on it. If I was going to do a band, it's going to be with competent musicians who don't need to, we got to practice, like know your stuff and we'll get together when we can kind of a thing, so, which is not the best way to approach a band. Realistically, if you want to do a band right, you got to hit it hard.
I've been asked a couple different times to do a third, and I'm just like, I'm in two right now. Like,
yeah, it's hard to even focus. That so like and I can't put focus into one, so I don't have the dedication for it at the moment. What will happen tomorrow? I don't know. It's always possible. Definitely always possible. So. I feel like I'm good at it when I do, focus on it, but, I don't know, I'm getting old, man. I don't know.
Like I said, seasoned. We're seasoned gentlemen.
Right, yes.
Very seasoned. Yeah. It makes us sound fancy.
Yeah,
or it's like a steak. I'm not sure which one. One of the two. So when it comes to like all the tattooing, the painting, illustrating, like music, everything, what do you have in store for the future? Like anything you can share, anything coming up, any projects?
Well, okay. the most recent projects, I put a lot into. I did the illustrations for the Satanic Warlock, and that was a lot of fun. But what I put an insane amount of work into was the Magus posters, which you can find on iSatanist, of Magus LeVay and Gilmore. Just hours and hours. And it takes a lot out of you.
Detailed.
Thank you. Yeah.
I was actually sitting there looking at them, just the amount of detail on them is fucking crazy.
And yeah, I mean, we're talking about months and months of work involved in those. So, things keep getting I get this list of ideas of here's the things I'm going to do, and then they get pushed back. So this year I had a list of things I wanted to do, and amongst them was writing another book. As well as I was going to do something for this year's Devil's Reign. And then I guess earlier in the year, I started thinking about focus and realizing, being a jack of all trades is often being a master of none, So, So this year I decided to focus most of my energy into improving my tattooing. Now, 22 years of tattooing, and I am considered a master tattooist. However, anybody who's good at any kind of art never stops learning and trying to improve, and I see a lot of room for improvement. So that's what I've been doing. Especially nowadays, I look at other artists and what they're doing. I'm like, I gotta catch up here, So I've been putting a lot of focus into that. And then I did the podcast, and I'm still doing the one with John. So, here we are. It's already August. I haven't written anything. I have notes. I have outlines for stuff.
Can you say what the book's going to be about?
I had a couple of ideas. One of them we turned into a podcast where we talked about villains and the role of villains and why they're kind of a necessary thing. And I originally had, and this was villains as in actual versus fictional, Why is it, Hitler is horrible, but Vader would kill just as many people, and we're like, yes, Vader, So I thought it would be an interesting way to look at things, and we ended up having a big discussion about that on the podcast, and so I kind of shuffled that around. But one of the ones that I wanted to explore, I'm a great admirer of Viking history and lore, and really wanted to kind of explore some of their, I guess, I'm having a brain fart here, but like Viking sayings and proverbs, and how those are applicable to modern men. There's so many weak men these days. There's a lot of sissy boys out there, and I just felt like maybe we need a rebirth of some of this
stuff like that.
Right. Too many safe zones. I thought I just kind of feel like I want to slap some boys around and say, "Hey, be a man, read this." But again, I have compiled a list of different proverbs and sayings that are really cool for that, and I've been just too focused on too many things, and so I was like, it's just going to have to wait. And the thing that sucks about it is, there's always new things that are coming up. I see something, I go, oh, I can do that. Adam Roberts is sending me, he makes his cool skulls and skull goblets. Well, he's sending me a skull cap right now because I'm like, hey, I'm pretty good at engraving. Let me see what I can do with this thing now. So, there's always some new idea, and who knows next month what's going to spark my interest, and I want to do that, I haven't done one in a while, but I do cartoons sometimes for the Old Nick magazine.
Okay.
I'm always available if somebody wants illustrations for books and stuff. I'm up to do this. So I mean, there's always new things popping up, and one thing that I can say for myself is like I'll try just about anything, but usually it's kind of like throwing different bait on different lines and see what bites, and that's what I'm going to go with then. So there's the part of it that's like, what do I want to do? But I want to do all of it. So then it's like, what's it worthwhile to do? Oh, this one, everyone's interested. Everyone likes this podcast. Podcast it is. I'm focusing on that, and or whatever it is at the time. So, so the book, my book about tattooing and stuff, called Sin in the Skin, it did pretty well, and I enjoy that. I got to get some more copies made, but Eric Perner helped me publish that, and I write with a lot of cynicism and sarcasm. Go figure.
You?
So,
no.
Right. So, and people liked it, so I'm like, I kind of would like to do more of that, but again, I don't know. I say that now, and next week I'll be like, you know what, maybe I will write some music. I don't know, man. I don't know. But I am, obviously I'm making a living at tattooing, so, I'm trying to amp that as much as possible, and I hope I'm never satisfied, with my skills in any art. I hope I never feel like, I'm good enough at that, so it's always going to pull time away from me. I'm never going to be like, I don't know what it's like to be bored. I have no idea what being bored is like. No clue. Anyway, yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
As a plus.
So, what to tell you about the future? I don't know. Keep watching.
Well, if they want to keep watching, or if they want to order some prints from you, or painting, or illustrating, or maybe get tattooed by you, where can they go?
Yeah. Okay, so best bet right now, everyone's using Instagram.
Yeah.
So on
Instagram, it's
Instagram,
the hot thing now.
Yeah. So Instagram, you can find me at Art of Wallace. Believe it or not, my name is not Dorian Grey. My parents didn't name me that. No. It actually started off as a stage name for the band, and it just kind of carried on. People think that's my name. Anyway, my last name is Wallace, W-A-L-L-A-C-E, so it's Art of Wallace, and that's got all, tattooing and whatever stuff I'm doing at the time. I'm pretty sure I took pictures of different conclaves I've been to and hanging out with evil people. And then, ordering stuff like, iSatanist carries the posters, and I did one of John's shirts, the 1966 one. He keeps telling me I need to do some more. So as far as I think on Facebook, facebook.com/Art of Wallace also, but probably easier on Instagram nowadays. And even with paintings, it's like it's usually custom order. I don't usually have a ton of stuff sitting around. In fact, I don't even know if I have anything that's like available other than maybe what's in my at the tattoo shop. But as far as like, if somebody said, "What do you have available to buy?" Nothing. What do you want? Tell me what you want, and then I'll do it. So that's how it usually works for me. Most like musician paintings and stuff like that were all like, I do have a few. I think I've got one of Steven Tyler and one of Prince, I think, at the shop right now. But yeah. So if you want something, let me know. As far as tattooing, yeah, definitely you can contact me through there. And I don't know if I should say this or not. So I talked to Andy Howell earlier on in the year. Actually, I think at the last Devil's Reign. I talked to him about possibly coming out there. Every year, people ask me, "Hey, when can I get a tattoo from you?" So he told me last year that his desk is usually available and there's usually a spot open. So I can't guarantee it, but I might just run a spot from him at Devil's Reign this year, maybe for the whole weekend or something like that, and so people can get some work done from me. But I'll let everyone know as soon as I know. So, yeah.
Well, that'd be awesome. If you are going to be down there, then I'm.
Are you going to come?
I want to come this year. This be my first year, so I really want to. I submitted
It's
something.
a good sign,
so
man. I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah, right on.
very stoked.
Right on,
So,
yeah.
I'll have to get something from
Especially now that there's no conclaves happening, it's a good time, good place for everyone to get together. And, yeah, very fun.
Sweet. Well, Dorian Grey, thank you so much for being the very first guest on the episode on the Dark Arts.
The Dark Arts.
Dark
Ooh, it's
Arts.
spooky.
It's spooky, right?
It is. I like it. And yeah, I'm glad to be here, and yeah, I knew you'd be the man for the job. So,
Aw.
good luck with the show, man.
Well, thank you so much, Dorian. All right. Later.
Later.